Listen to me, ragazzo. Sit in this dark room for a moment and shut out the world's noise. You think life is a race, don't you? You think you have to run after every opportunity, every skirt, every dollar that flashes in the gutter. You move fast, thinking speed is power. You move loud, thinking noise is respect. But what if I told you that all this movement is just smoke? Cheap theater for small minds, a circus for peasants with nothing to lose and nothing to protect. This is the first lie the world sells you, that the one who moves first wins. Let me rip that lie apart. When a dog is starving, he runs after anything that smells like food, biting at shadows, chasing his own tail, if nothing else. But a lion? A lion sits on his mountain, unbothered by the panic of smaller creatures. He knows that everything in his domain will pass before his eyes eventually. You're not a lion yet, not if you chase every mouse that scurries across your vision. You're just another dog, barking, sweating, dying for scraps. That's not power. That's desperation, wearing a cheap suit. I've watched men burn out before 30, their veins full of adrenaline, eyes red from sleepless hustling. They call it the grind, like it's a badge of honor. But grinding is for stones, not for men who intend to rule. The Don knows this. He does not chase. He watches. He does not hurry. He waits. Every move is measured. Every silence is loaded. The world will try to shame you into action. They'll say, if you're not running, you're falling behind. Ignore them. Most of them are already lost, running circles in mazes they built for themselves. Let me give you a picture. Picture a river swollen after the rain. The current is wild, sweeping everything along, branches, dead animals, the occasional fool who fell in without knowing how to swim. The water rushes forward, but where does it end up? Most times it smashes itself against the rocks and disappears into nothing. The Don is not the river. He is the stone that the river cannot move. Everything comes to him, sooner or later. You will feel the urge in your bones to chase. It's natural, it's animal. But if you let that urge dictate your life, you'll spend your days running after things that do not matter and running from things that do. The men who built empires, who ruled cities from the shadows, they were not the ones sprinting through the night. They were the ones who could sit, unmoved, while the world lost its mind around them. That is discipline. That is power. You want respect? Stop moving. You want fear? Stop speaking. You want everything to come to you? Then learn to wait. They will call you lazy, arrogant, detached. Let them talk. A lion doesn't care what the mice are squeaking about. Remember this, the more you chase, the more you bleed power. You leak it from every pore, every desperate word, every anxious step. The man who cannot sit with himself cannot rule others. The man who needs the world to see him moving is already a slave to the world's eyes. The Don is patient because he knows the true price of action. One wrong move can cost everything. Impatience has buried more men than bullets. So, ask yourself, are you moving because you must, or because you're afraid of standing still? Most men run from silence because in silence they hear the truth. And for most, the truth is unbearable. They are nobody. They have nothing, and nobody is coming to save them. That pain, that emptiness, is where real power is born, if you have the stomach to sit with it. So next time you feel the urge to run, to chase, to hustle, just for the sake of being seen, remember this room. Remember this silence. Remember the Don's law. Movement does not mean power. Stillness does not mean weakness. Sometimes the one who waits longest is the only one left standing when the dust settles. And then, my friend, everyone comes knocking on his door. In every room, there's always one man who speaks louder than the rest. He laughs the hardest, slams his hands on the table, draws attention like a child crying for his mother's gaze. But no one fears him. No one respects him. He's just noise, a distraction at best, a clown at worst. But then there's another man. He sits in silence, eyes calm, shoulders still. His presence pulls the air tight, like a storm coming in from the east. That man is the dawn. Let me teach you the power of stillness. Not the stillness of the weak, not the frozen fear of the timid, but the quiet control of the man who knows he doesn't need to announce himself. A man like that walks into a room and suddenly the temperature drops, not because he says anything, but because he doesn't need to. His silence is not emptiness. It's weight, it's pressure, it's gravity, and only the foolish try to ignore it. You see, in the old world, respect was not earned by noise. It was earned by presence. When Don Giovanni stepped into a room, men stood up without knowing why. They fixed their suits, adjusted their tone, like prey sensing a predator. The Don didn't demand it. He didn't flash gold or bark orders. His stillness spoke louder than words ever could, because presence, ragazzo, is not about being seen. It's about being felt. Presence is built in the dark, in solitude, in the quiet hours where you choose pain over comfort, discipline over pleasure, reflection over distraction. You don't build presence by posting quotes or shouting into the void. You build it by becoming a man who can carry his own weight, and then some. A man who has walked through fire and returned without making a sound. That silence, it echoes louder than a scream. Let me tell you a story. There was once a lieutenant in our family. Young, sharp, but always talking, always moving. He thought charisma was power. He thought if people heard him enough, they'd follow him. One night, he insulted a man from the old guard, an elder who barely spoke, but had more blood on his hands than the young one had years on his life. The elder didn't flinch, didn't speak. He just stared. And in that stare, the boy unraveled. Days later, he apologized without being asked, not because of fear, but because he felt the weight of the man's silence. That, my friend, is power. Stillness unnerves the insecure. They interpret it as arrogance because they need attention to survive. But you're not here to survive. You're here to command. And to command, you must be the calmest one in the room. Calm like the barrel of a gun before it fires. Calm like the executioner's hand. Because the man who can remain still while others break owns the outcome. If you walk into a room and feel the need to prove yourself, you've already lost. If your presence doesn't do the talking, then your words are just noise trying to fill a void. The Don knows this. He trains his presence like a soldier sharpens a blade, quietly, daily, relentlessly. So when he steps in, men lower their voices not because they're told to, but because they know. That's the difference between influence and power. Influence asks. Power doesn't need permission. You will learn, if you live long enough, that most men are allergic to silence. They fear what it reflects back at them. But you must become the silence they fear. The quiet force in the room that makes lesser men hesitate, that makes women turn their heads, that makes opportunity gravitate toward you without a single word. You must become a man who doesn't chase moments, but creates them by standing still while the world spins. And when the day comes that they call your name with reverence, not excitement, when your absence says more than their speeches, when your gaze makes others choose their words carefully, then you will understand. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of mastery. The Don doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. Because in a world of desperate motion, he is the immovable mountain they all must walk around. There's a game the children play. It's loud, fast, and full of jumping pieces. They call it checkers. No strategy, no depth, just reaction. You move because he moved. You jump because he jumped. It's a game for the impatient, for those who live in the moment and die in the next. But the Don plays chess, And not just any chess. He plays with lives, reputations, empires, moving in silence, calculating outcomes 10 steps ahead. The board is the world. And the pieces? Every desperate man who thinks he's winning just because it's his turn. This is where patience becomes weaponized. You think waiting is passive? Waiting is a setup, a loaded silence. You wait not because you're weak, but because you're building something too precise to rush. An empire is not made in motion. It's built in the shadows, brick by calculated brick. Every ally chosen like a knight, every opportunity vetted like a bishop. And the king? The king doesn't move unless absolutely necessary. He lets the board shape itself to his advantage. You want to rule? Then stop acting like you're in a sprint. Power is a long war. The ones who rise fast fall faster. The fire that burns brightest at dawn is ash before midnight. But the dawn, he's building a fortress while others are building tents. You think he's absent. You think he's slow. But every silence is him watching. Every delay is him refining. While the boys played loud and reckless, the dawn sharpens his dagger in the dark. Let me paint it clearer. There was a capo in Naples once, greedy, flashy. He made moves daily, aggressive, public, sloppy. The streets whispered his name. For a while he looked like a king, but he didn't realize he was being watched. Every move he made, the dawn recorded like a piece on the board, and when the moment came, when the capo's rook was isolated, his knights exposed. The dawn struck once, quiet, precise. The capo never saw it coming because men like him don't see, they only react. That's the art. The dawn waits not for lack of options, but because he understands. Timing is more important than opportunity. You don't open the vault with force. You wait until the guard is asleep. You don't start the war when you're angry. You start when your enemy thinks you've forgotten. This is why patience is lethal, because while the world celebrates movement, the dawn honors positioning. You will feel it, this pressure to act, the clock ticking in your mind, the fear that if you don't move now, you'll miss your shot. That fear is a lie. Most shots aren't missed, they're taken too early. The man who can wait for the perfect moment will always defeat the man who can't hold still. Power is not seized in a flash, it's absorbed over time, quietly, gradually, like poison in a cup. There's a reason kings don't run, a reason they sit high, still, distant. It's not arrogance, it's design. When you move too much, you reveal too much. When you act without layers, you invite collapse. The dawn builds everything with insulation, plans within plans, lies that protect truths, friends that watch enemies. And while others demand results now, he plants seeds, knowing the harvest will be his alone. So remember this, when the world tries to bait you into rushing, reacting, panicking, chess is not about motion, it's about control. If you need to move, you're already behind. But if you can wait, if you can let them show their hand while you hold yours close, then you're not playing the game. You're writing it. The dawn doesn't chase kings, he corners them. And by the time they realize, it's already checkmate. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, there was a boy, sharp suit, sharper tongue, always in motion, always hustling. He thought the world was a prize to be chased. Women, money, power. He ran after all of it like a starving dog, tongue out, breath short, pride long gone. He mistook movement for dominance. He thought being everywhere meant he was in control. But what he didn't know is that the real predator doesn't chase. He waits. That boy, he wanted to impress the dawn, brought him gifts, loud ideas, flashy ambition, said he was willing to do whatever it takes. The dawn listened, calm, silent, eyes like winter steel, and he said nothing. Weeks passed. The boy grew louder, desperate, started chasing even harder. Then one day, the dawn called. not to praise, not to offer a throne, but to warn, stop running before you bury yourself under your own dust. The boy didn't listen. Most don't. He kept hunting what could never be caught, because what he failed to grasp is this: everything worth having comes to you when you no longer need it. When you stop panting for validation, stop begging the world to notice you, stop chasing ghosts in silk dresses and empty applause, that's when the world kneels. See, the Don never ran after women. They found him, curious, nervous, intrigued by the man who didn't need them. While other men rehearsed lines and played games, the Don remained unmoved. He didn't chase. He didn't flirt. He watched. And that stillness, that detachment, it drew them in like moths to a fire they couldn't touch. You chase beauty, it runs. You embody power, it obeys. The same goes for money. The Don never begged for deals, never danced for contracts. While the hustlers were cold calling and begging for scraps, the Don was building silence. Men came to him because they had to, because his presence was value, because in a world of noise, he was the one man who didn't need to scream to be heard. They knew, if he speaks, it's final. If he agrees, it's done. If he says no, it's war. Let me make this clear. Every time you chase, you lower your value. You tell the world you don't believe in your own worth. You leak power with every needy gesture, every anxious follow-up, every compliment you didn't mean. The Don does not chase because chasing implies lack. And a man like him, he lacks nothing. Not because he has everything, but because he needs nothing. This is how the hunt reverses. You become so grounded, so immovable, that others must adjust their path just to align with yours. You speak less, but every word echoes. You show up rarely, but when you do, they stop breathing. You give nothing away, and they offer everything: respect, loyalty, fear. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it by not needing it. And the ones who once overlooked you, the ones who ghosted you, mocked you, underestimated you, they come back, always, with softer voices, with apologies wrapped in false smiles. They come crawling, not walking, because time reveals what noise hides. The quiet man built in discipline becomes the gravity others can't escape. So I ask you now, are you chasing or are you waiting? Are you begging for crumbs or are you setting the table? Because the man who chases always stays hungry, but the Don eats in silence while the world starves on noise. There's a law older than blood, older than gold, older than every empire that's ever risen and crumbled. What is meant for a man of discipline will always come to him if he waits like a grave waits for the dying. That's not poetry, ragazzo. That's war strategy. That's life. And that's the final law, the law the Don lives by, the law you either master or get buried beneath. Let's speak the truth no one dares to whisper. The world isn't fast. It's chaotic. It doesn't reward speed. It rewards leverage. And you don't gain leverage by chasing what runs. You gain it by standing so still, so certain that the ground shifts in your direction. The Don never chased anything, not because he couldn't, but because he understood. Chasing is beneath kings. Waiting is what crowns them. Look around. Who chases? The weak, the hungry, the loud, the men afraid to be alone with their own reflection. You ever see a storm chase the trees? Number. It comes when it decides. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't seek approval. And when it arrives, everything bows. That's the energy of a man who waits with power. People say patience is a virtue. Number. That's a lie the soft tell themselves. Patience is a weapon, a blade so sharp you never see it until it's already opened your throat. The Don doesn't wait because he's kind. He waits because he's lethal. He lets his enemies overextend. He lets the women show their desperation. He lets the opportunities ripen until they fall into his hands, already peeled, already sweet. Timing isn't luck, it's art, and only the disciplined can paint in silence. The ones who chase die tired. They lose their edge, burn their name, stain their legacy, because in the hunt for everything they forget who they are. They become noise, and noise is disposable. But the dawn? He's the silence that comes after the shot, the quiet after the scream. He is not remembered because he was fast. He is remembered because he was final. You want to be feared? Don't react. You want to be respected? Don't explain. You want to rule? Then wait, not passively, not idly, but with intent. Wait like a man sharpening a sword in the dark, like a king watching pawns destroy themselves, like a god watching his enemies pray to the wrong altar. That's how you win, not with movement, but with presence, not with begging, but with certainty. And here's the truth most will never admit. It's not about getting what you want. It's about becoming the kind of man to whom the world offers what he wants. And that transformation, it doesn't happen in the chase. It happens in the stillness, in the solitude, in the cold mornings where you rise without applause, in the long nights where no one claps for your discipline, in the shadows where you build a foundation so deep, even earthquakes kneel to it. So stop chasing, stop begging, stop moving just to be seen. Sit down, shut your mouth, let your silence become unbearable to them. Let your absence haunt the rooms you once filled. And when they finally come, women, deals, enemies, kings, let them see what patience made of you. Let them feel the weight of a man who never chased a damn thing. Because in the end, when the smoke clears and the noise dies and the bodies are counted, only one figure will remain, still, silent, supreme. The dawn.